Why does Bitcoin use so much electricity and banking use so little? The simple answer is because it's designed that way, but the bigger question is why are systems designed in this way? There's no simple answer to that one, but there are some contributing factors that can explain why banks are using 56 times more energy than Bitcoin. Banks use a lot more power than Bitcoin due to legacy systems. These legacy systems, like ATMs and branches, require banks to maintain an infrastructure that doesn't exist in the Bitcoin world. All Bitcoin transactions are peer-to-peer and done digitally through computers or smartphones. This allows users to transact with one another without the need for third-party intermediaries like banks. One of the ways in which banks use so much more energy than Bitcoin is because they require more users. Banks need a high amount of energy to process transactions and maintain their databases. The more transactions that are processed, the higher the electricity costs will be. In order to increase the number of transactions, banks have to make it as easy as possible for people to spend money, which means that they have to have branches all over the place. Banks are open more hours than Bitcoin. Whereas banks are open from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, Bitcoin is only available for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Banking institutions consume more paper than any other industry in the world. They need to print out bank statements, deposit slips and withdraw slips. As a result, they consume more paper than any other industry in the world. This can be attributed to the fact that they need to print out bank statements, deposit slips and withdraw slips. In contrast, Bitcoin is a digital currency that has no physical form at all. Banks have physical locations all over the world and they use more energy because of it. For example, the Bank of America Tower in New York City uses over 400,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity each year. That is enough power to run 400 homes. In the last decade, energy efficiency in the banking industry has increased by 16%. This is a significant improvement, but it still means that banks use 56x more power than Bitcoin. The increase in energy usage can be attributed to the rise of ATMs and mobile banking apps. Banks require more security than Bitcoin transactions because they hold people's money. Banks need to constantly keep their transactions and data safe from hackers and thieves, which requires a lot of power. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is basically just a database that records transactions between two parties. It doesn't store any money or sensitive information like bank accounts do. The only thing it needs is a computer to run it and an internet connection. This means banks use at least 56x more energy than Bitcoin does. While Bitcoin mining only uses power to create new Bitcoins, banking uses power to keep track of transactions and prevent fraud. That means that banks need a lot more data storage and processing power, which requires more energy. In fact, the banking industry consumes about 16 times as much electricity as Bitcoin mining does. Banking relies on a lot more employees than Bitcoin does. According to the World Economic Forum, there are about 200,000 employees in the banking sector and about 4,000 Bitcoin miners. This is 16 times as many people involved in banking operations. Bitcoin is a form of cryptocurrency that uses blockchain technology to process transactions. Unlike traditional currency, Bitcoin isn't controlled by any central government or bank, so it's more difficult for the system to be hacked or tampered with. There are only two ways people can get Bitcoins. They either earn them from providing goods or services, or buy them from a Bitcoin exchange. Every time you make a purchase using your credit card, your bank pays fees to companies like Visa and MasterCard. Banking is a power-hungry industry. You might have heard that the financial sector uses 56 times more electricity than the entire nation of Denmark, where people enjoy some of the highest living standards in the world. But don't worry, there are ways to reduce your bank's carbon footprint and energy usage without sacrificing all its conveniences.